Hello everyone, welcome back to a little bit of a different video. Today, I want to talk a little bit about disabled representation in Doctor Who and why I think it's about to get a whole lot better. But obviously, if you do enjoy the content, feel free to subscribe. We're trying to get to 16,000. YouTube's been unsubscribing people, it does happen, so make sure you're subscribed. Also, watch to the end if you find the content interesting. So the sort of catalyst for me talking about this today is that it was recently revealed that Chania Button, who is one of the directors for the Doctor Who 60th anniversary specials, however many of them there'll be, is recovering from a spinal surgery. She posted on Instagram that, quote, "Here I am on one of my first days of prep on Doctor Who using a walking stick for the first time at work. Absolutely terrified. Recovering from major spinal surgery. Thank you, Russel Davis, for creating an inclusive working environment, and for never taking the stairs too fast. I'm reminded I am exactly who I always was, a little slower for now, but perhaps a little stronger." And this comes off the back as well of comments from Andy Pryer, who's the casting director for Doctor Who, saying that they are making more of an effort to put more disabled people into Doctor Who. And I just wanted to talk about personally why this means the absolute world to me to see, and why I'm just so excited by the prospect of more disabled people in the show. So, getting a little bit personal for a second, I have always wanted to work in, the media for as long as I can remember. You know, I did media A-level, that's what I studied for a while, until COVID kind of got in the way. And Doctor Who was a big part of my love for the media, you know. I grew up watching, obviously, not to make anyone feel old, but late David Tennant, early Matt Smith stuff, and I just fell in love with it. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if one day I was involved in something like this? That would be incredible, Doctor Who in particular. But there was always this fear that I had that it would be difficult for me to ever do something like that due to my own disability. And obviously, bearing in mind, as much as we like to believe that now we're living in a time that's very inclusive of everybody, you know, even my primary schools, I remember my parents told me this very specific story of when I was younger. They were going around all the different primary schools and everyone was suggesting to them, oh, he needs to go to a special needs school. And they were like, no. They were basically saying just because he's in a wheelchair does not mean he needs to be in a special needs class, a special needs school. He's capable of keeping up with mainstream schooling. And that was something that when I was starting out school was still somewhat novel. And I remember distinctly my first day, one of the only things I remember of my first day of school ever in primary school was going into the classroom and every single kid's head turned, all 30 of them turned to me and stared. And for a while as I was growing up, I didn't really understand why I was different to everyone else, why I was in the chair, why, you know, I was higher up than everyone else on this seat and everyone else was on the floor. I didn't really get it. And obviously eventually, you know, I found out what I had cerebral palsy, for any of you curious, quadriplegic. And so I sort of came to terms with who I was at that time. But obviously, through all those formative years and through it sort of being seen as a novelty and something that wasn't really the norm, I still had my doubts that I could do certain things. Without going into too much depth, my first high school was very, shall we say, not great when it comes to disabilities. They were actually a Catholic school. Now, I'm not Catholic, but the reason I went was because they were the only ones with lifts at the time. And they also had a specific quota of, you know, non-Catholic people that they could admit to the school. But they saw me more as a means for funding rather than, you know, an actual person. They would cart me around from person to person, you know. They do things when I was in school that, let's just say, they were less than desirable for anyone, shall we say. Luckily, I went to my second high school and they were a lot more accommodating and a lot better when it came to my disability. But again, having your formative years basically being like, oh look, this is an issue, people use this or they see you in a certain way, you know, that builds up to you inside. And I think obviously the fact that I didn't see as many disabled people on TV as perhaps there is now was a large contributing factor to that. A large contributing factor to that isolation, to that loneliness. And I think that's what makes this feel so special to me right now, is that there are people right now doing the exact things that I wanted to do as a kid who are like me. And that means so much. And that, I think, is why representation is so important, and disabled representation in particular to me is so important. It might not come across, I mean I hope it doesn't come across, but I used to be really self-conscious about the way I looked on camera. If you go back and watch my earlier videos, I never showed my face. They were always me talking over a vortex or some text or an article, because I didn't feel confident with how I looked. I feared being judged for the way I moved due to my disability. And it's only through basically being with the right people over time and it becoming more accepted that I've become comfortable with doing this now. And obviously for the last couple of years, you've had to see my ugly bug. But yeah, basically, I just want to say thank you to the Doctor Who production team, to Russell, who are seeming to make Doctor Who a much more inclusive work environment. Obviously, we've got Chanya Button. The late Bernard Cribbins was in a wheelchair as well when they were filming for the 60th. And I just, from the bottom of my heart, want to thank you all for the support. It genuinely means the world. And I'm not trying to diminish the, disabled representation in the show in the past, but I definitely think this feels to me like a greater step forward, because I've always been somewhat let down by the disabled representation in the show specifically. Obviously, as I said, it's become a much more prominent issue, and I'm just really pleased to see the initiative being taken to show that more prominently. It genuinely means a lot. And I know I don't normally get like this personal in videos, so I don't even know how well this is going to do. This might do terribly. I don't know. You all might go, oh, just talk about Reddit. I'll go, okay, I will. But yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to the production team for making Doctor Who such an inclusive space for everyone. But yeah, let me know in the comments below what you think about this topic. I realise again it's a bit more personal, so yeah, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in a bit.